Before we start the meeting, we need to come out of executive session. I need a motion to come out of executive session at 6:50 p.m. Councilmember Kaminsky, seconded by Councilmember Jasinski. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we'll start the regular meeting. Please rise for the pledge. Please continue to stand as we have a moment of silence for our veterans. And could we have Reverend Rick come up for the invocation tonight?
Sure. Father, as you see, we have a full house here today because people are concerned about their town. And Father, I know you're concerned about us. So Lord God, we're inviting you to this meeting tonight by your Holy Spirit. Father, I do pray, Father, for Officer Black Chief as he goes through this surgery, that Lord God, that you make him whole. And Father, you minister to his family. Lord, we never forget our police officers, our CERT team, our firemen and ladies, that Father, keep us safe. So Lord God, we just ask, Lord, your blessing tonight. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call?
Councilmember Christine Adamsack. Councilmember Linda Hammer. Here. Councilmember Michael Jasinski.
Here.
Councilmember Gerald Kaminsky.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Noah.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski.
Present.
And Supervisor Diane Benchkowski.
Here. Okay, we have 7 members present tonight. We will do the proclamation first. I know we have a public comment period coming, but we also have a very important proclamation to present tonight. Mike Mazurowski, I'll join you up there. Good. Yeah, because otherwise everyone won't hear me on the YouTube. But Mike, come on. Buddy, tonight I want to present you, I got tears, in conjunction with the Cheektowaga Town Board, pays the highest possible tribute to Mike Mazurowski. All right, here comes Brian. Can he read it?
Sure, sure.
It's too emotional, and I'll stand there.
Sure.
Go ahead. You got it.
Whereas the town supervisor of Cheektowaga, in conjunction with the Cheektowaga Town Board, pays the highest possible tribute to Mike Mazurowski in celebration of his retirement after over 15 years of service with the town of Cheektowaga. And whereas Michael Mazurowski began as the Assistant Natural Disaster Service Coordinator under the Emergency Services Manager, the late Earl Loader. Upon the passing of Earl Loader, Michael was promoted to Emergency Services Manager with over 30 years of experience in emergency services, is a certified FEMA professional, and holds degrees in fire science, emergency medical services, paramedic, and emergency management. And whereas Michael Mazurowski took great pride in leading our community emergency response team, made up of 100% volunteers. Michael successfully evacuated a 184-bed nursing home during the town-declared snow emergency and assisted the town supervisor during a first-time pandemic, COVID-19 state of emergency. And whereas Michael Mazurowski revised and updated the town comprehensive emergency management plan, developed the first ever computerized NIMS compliance database, and spent years organizing and creating a support program that enabled the town of Cheektowaga to become a natural weather service storm-ready town. Now therefore it be resolved, the town board salutes Michael Mazurowski in celebration of his retirement in October 2023 in Cheektowaga, New York, and wishes him a health and joyful retirement. Signed, Supervisor Diane Benchkowski and Town Board.
Sorry about that, Mike. I don't know. I'm just emotional tonight. So with that being said, we'll move on to our public comment period. This is an opportunity for residents to comment on items appearing on the agenda of the town board meeting tonight. The public comment period should last 15 minutes maximum. Each speaker may speak only once, and each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. Please speak directly to the board only. We ask that you please do not use profanity or derogatory words, and please stick to your time limit. Thank you. Our first speaker is Monica Elderkin.
Thank you. I would like to express my deep concern over recent events involving the Resolution 525 for censure of Councilmember Nowak, and also the remarks made by residents in public comments calling for the censure of Nowak. To recap, Nowak objected to a resident's application to the Ethics Committee member based on this resident flying a Confederate flag in her yard, or as she claims, her husband flew it. The resolution for censure of Nowak is on the agenda, claiming an abuse of power and First Amendment violations. While I believe in the importance of open dialogue and diverse perspectives within our council, it is crucial that our elected officials conduct themselves in a manner that upholds the principles of fairness, discernment, and inclusivity. It is important to recognize that our community is built on principles of unity and equality for all. The Confederate flag has been associated with a painful history representing division and discrimination to many. An ethics committee member is a volunteer position to judge and identify moral dilemmas that arise and find an ethics-based resolution. It is a legitimate concern for an ethics committee member to allow a symbol of ownership and slavery over other human beings. Would the board members really vote to approve the appointment with flying the Confederate flag as an example of a sound moral decision? It is claimed in the resolution that there is an issue of First Amendment, but the First Amendment does not protect against consequences. An ethics committee member should not allow a Confederate flag on her property. Nowak showed the appropriate concern over the appointment of a position that would be responsible for ethical decisions that had demonstrated poor judgment. In no way was this an abuse of power. It was discernment. It is not coincidental that this issue has been brought up and has stoked the division in our community to turn this into political theater months before an election. The voters of Cheektowaga should take notice of these actions as they vote in November. And while there were vocal calls for censure from town members on Nowak, I want it stated on the record that not all members of Cheektowaga will be silent, and we will stand up against bigotry.
Okay, thank you, Monica. Dave Park?
I was a member of the working party until I found out Brian Nowak here went against my wife. I think the working party should not support him, and I will work on them to not support him for his upcoming election. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Mr. Park. Next speaker is Katie. I'm sorry, Katie, I know your last name, or your new married name, Caminarze?
Close enough. I want to start my address by thanking you all for this space to express our thoughts and opinions on what has been going on in the town of Cheektowaga, specifically the resolution to censor Councilmember Nowak. Ethics is defined as a set of moral principles, especially ones relating to or affirming a specific group, field, or form of conduct. The Board of Ethics was established in Cheektowaga to enforce and uphold the code of ethics within the town and for all town employees and elected officials. The people appointed to this board should display a long-running history of being ethical. If someone applying to this board has any questions about their ethics, they should be brought to light so that the town board putting them in place has all the information they need to make an appropriate decision. That being said, Councilmember Nowak was correct in revealing the information that he did. The Confederate flag is a symbol of racism and treason. Racism is a public health epidemic. I am a proponent of free speech, but not when that speech endangers the lives of other people, and freedom of speech does not give you freedom from repercussion of that speech. With the recent hometown shooting at Tops, it is even more evident that racism is out in the open in this area and is a widespread problem in this country. We need to work harder as a community and as a town to grow. Instead of arguing over the messenger, we should take the time to start our own journeys out of racism. I believe that everyone has to take that journey on their own and in their own way. I implore each and every person in this room to take the time to recognize their own racism and make an effort to begin this journey. We need the leaders of this town to set an example for the community. Organizations such as Showing Up for Racial Justice and Black Love Resists the Rust need our help to heal the injustice that has been done. We should be the example in this county, this state, and this country instead of being the laughingstock that can't stop arguing and govern the way they were elected to. Thank you for your time, and if anyone would like to help connecting with racial justice organizations, I'm always available to help.
Thank you, Katie. Dan Jones.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. This is not a night for campaigning, although many of you know me through politics. I would like to begin by saying tonight that I do not know what's in anyone's heart or what goes on in their household, and I'm a sinner too. A nominee for the Board of Ethics, by her own admission, was revealed to have a Confederate flag flying in front of her home in recent years. And the ensuing uproar has led us here tonight. A demand for a resignation over the reveal, anger and grudges, and I get caught up in it too. The hallmarks of ugliness, and now we have the long and sinister shadow of racial division hanging over us. For clarity, it's important to recognize that the Confederate flag is a symbol that, without question, evokes deep wounds and memories for many as a symbol of prejudice against minorities and those who love them. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement, it stood for slavery and then as a symbol of white supremacy. Respectfully, and I say respectfully, it is not about rebellion. Now, I want to emphasize again that I do not stand here tonight in judgment, and make no mistake, Ms. Park has the First Amendment right to fly that flag, and it should not have to be taken down. Mr. Park, her husband, spoke before me, and I do believe that he deserves to be heard, just like everyone else here. Now, personally, I would never fly that flag in my home. And just with other political appointees discussing their views at the national and state level, I believe this is not a violation of law. Councilmember Nowak, I believe, acted in that spirit. That leads me to my deep concern about town council meetings and what is seen here in general. Robert F. Kennedy wrote in his speech, The Mindless Menace of Violence, given right after the assassination of Martin Luther King, that when you teach a man to hate and fear his brother, when you teach that he is a lesser man because of his color or his beliefs or the policies he pursues, when you teach that those who differ from you threaten your freedom or your job or your family, then you also learn to confront others not as fellow citizens but as enemies, to be met with not with cooperation but with conquest, to be subjugated and mastered. When I was appointed to the planning board, I had all 7 of your votes, Democrats and Republicans. I'm very proud of this. I remember the common ground we had during my interview. Then I see at meetings the disagreements that not on policy, but becoming so personal and visceral and without much having to do with the substance of what affects our town. I'm very proud that my American Indian nation, the Ojibwe or Anishinaabe as we call ourselves, acted as guides on the Underground Railroad, and that other ancestors of mine fought in the Revolution to preserve the First Amendment rights enjoyed by us all, including Ms. Park. However, The First Amendment does not protect you from the consequences of that amendment when it comes to a political appointment. I'll just
Dan, your
finish my
time's
thought.
up.
I hope that this council and our town can, as RFK put it, work a little harder to bind up the wounds among us, and in our hearts, become brothers and countrymen once again.
Thank you. Wally Carriero.
Happy belated birthday, Jerry. Just wanted to say that to you. Thank you. I don't think this is about the flag like everybody's talking about. I don't think that people have hate in their heart in this town. People have concern for their lives in this town. With the poor decisions that are being made by this board, which are now coming to light, and it's very sad because in this resolution, it says, whereas Brian Nowak violated Section 201B of Title 18. Now, that's what we got to be looking at. We have to look at his actions and not whether it was a rebel flag or a Black Lives Matter flag or a rainbow flag. You know, however you want to go and sit there and pick a person and say, well, I don't like that guy because I don't like his bird flag in front of his house, and I don't like his motorcycle flag, and you don't like my Harley Davidson t-shirt. That's exactly what that man did. That man looked at somebody's home and made a decision and convinced every one of you that because this person had that flag, they had hate and misunderstanding in their heart. That's what was wrong. That's what you guys didn't look at. You guys didn't look at him as a whole as he's trying to go and trade $400,000 in so-called favors. You didn't see him destroy a person's life. And I was here that evening. It could have been done in executive session. It could have been done during the work meeting. And he certainly could have attended the ethics board meeting itself. He has that time and those capabilities. To do it because the cameras was here was unacceptable. To attack a person that lives in this town. He attacked someone, and that's really what it comes down to. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicky Leader.
In my opinion, censorship is not enough. Now with the accusations of bribes, and he has the nerve to stalk and dox Miss Julie for the Ethics Committee. This is the pot calling the kettle black. The Ethics Board shouldn't be chosen by this entity that they're supposed to watch. That set aside, it's like a criminal choosing their judge. It doesn't work that way, and it's not supposed to work that way. Being censured is not enough. He should step down voluntarily or be fired. As a taxpayer, I would be the first one in line to fire you for that. You put her at risk. Research the Confederate flag. It was for states' rights. However, that, you can, oh my God, that.
Could I ask, please let
People
the
don't like the
speakers
truth.
finish?
They don't like the truth. That's fine. Whether they associate that to a hate, that's your opinion. I don't fly it. It's not my business.
Please let her finish, because you're interrupting her time.
Jerry said to me last meeting, one bad apple in a bunch. But if you leave that bad apple in the bunch, what happens to the rest of them? They start to rot. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Vicki. Don Filipski.
A few months ago, during a large public meeting, I took a jab at Christine. I thought I was being a smart aleck. Maybe I was being funny. Afterward, I found out that there were some things going on that I didn't know about. I then felt badly about my careless words and how I spoke to her in a public forum. I reached out to Chris in an email. We talked. We did what people are supposed to do, communicate. We realized we both had been through similar things and that we probably had more in common than we realized. At the next town board meeting, I put my big girl pants on and I apologized to Chris in person at that same public meeting. I didn't try to run away from what I had done. I was an adult. I stood up and did the right thing because I did not want to hurt Chris or anyone else. Mr. Nowak is correct. This is politically driven. However, it was perpetuated by him and the Democrats on the board, Hammer, Kaminsky, and Pilarski. Maybe Mr. Nowak can detail for us exactly how he found this information so we can all see it online. I looked. I couldn't find it. But there is a current council person who lives on the same road and probably drives right past her house several times a day. Does that person know this lady? Is there an axe to grind? Or is this a way to tie Republicans with being racist? The old Democrat playbook to call people racist. If this wasn't a political attack, why would he say he knows the flag is protected speech, but he wanted to bring it up at a large public meeting? As far as I'm concerned, Nowak, Hammer, Kaminsky, and Pilarski all owe this individual an apology. I believe they all knew this was going to happen prior to the meeting. Nowak sure did. Any one of them could have stood up for the rights of the person and said this is not for open discussion and should be handled privately, and she should be asked to come in and talk about it. Why didn't our parliamentarians step forward and say something? Y'all said nothing. What's next? Will we be bringing up town employees and openly discussing their problems for all the town to hear? Will we be bringing forward people who disagree with our views and belittling them? When does this end? Bottom line, a person was hurt by what transpired 2 meetings ago. That person stepped forward, provided an emotional speech explaining herself. You should have all felt bad, the same way I felt bad when I said something about Chris. When someone is a supervisor, the first rule should be treat all with decency and respect, as well as to discipline in private and praise in public. As far as I'm concerned, Nowak, Hammer, Kaminsky, and Pilarski have not shown decency and respect, and they should all put on their adult pants, come forward with your apologies, because you all had a hand in this travesty and someone was hurt. The board should lead by example. I hope someone will follow my example and do the right thing.
Thank you, Diane. Heather Alt?
Thank you for the opportunity to address this divisive resolution to censure Brian Nowak. My name is Heather Alt, and I live along the Buffalo border in Cheektowaga. Are you aware that to the majority of Americans, the Confederate flag is a symbol of slavery, oppression, and division, and that it represents a time in history when millions of people were enslaved, mistreated, and dehumanized, and that it represents the pain, suffering, and inequality that African Americans have had to endure through our history as a nation? It's a symbol of white supremacy, and for Southerners, a symbol of this racist heritage. Are you also aware that the state of New York passed a bill in 2020 prohibiting the selling or displaying of symbols of hate and other similar images or tangible personal property inscribed with such an image on public property, which includes the Confederate flag? I'm aware of this. Are you? Are you aware the candidate for the Board of Ethics disclosed her own identity, specifically her name and her profession, by her own free will? Prior to that, she was completely anonymous, except to members of the town board who interviewed her for the Board of Ethics. She admitted that, yes, a Confederate flag flew in front of her home on Lawson Road, which I will add is located along an extremely busy throughway into the neighborhoods of South Cheektowaga, Bellevue, and Depew. Her home is also located across the street from 2 of Cheektowaga's largest parks, Stiegelmeyer Park and Reinstein Woods, which welcomes over 200,000 visitors per year. Are you aware that over 16,000 vehicles travel each day on Lawson Road, which equals over 40,000 drivers over a 3-day period that the alleged Confederate flag was flown? Or was it flying for a week with over 100,000 passersby? Or was it flying for a month with nearly 500,000 passersby? At least one person I spoke with recalled seeing a Confederate flag on Lawson Road for at least several weeks, or maybe even up to a month. According to the most recent census, 20% of the town of Cheektowaga residents identify as not Caucasian, as in people of color. Are you aware of this? And are you aware that 20% of Cheektowaga residents are senior citizens over the age of 65, a group often referred to by this board as a very large population, therefore very deserving of the town's resources and help? Would you agree the same 20% of town residents, the 20% who might be deeply offended by this Confederate flag, are also very deserving of similar respect, consideration, and resources? Related to this, I'm curious how many people of color are employed by the town of Cheektowaga, Cheektowaga's highway department, and Cheektowaga's police force. My guess is very few, if any. Are you aware of this? There are town positions.
Your time is up, Heather. Sorry. Thank you. You had your 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Thanks. Abe Glover.
Thank you for allowing me to be here this evening to voice my concern. I came here today with a deep sense of concern about our town, especially in light of the recent news that a nominee for our town board of ethics admitted of having to display a Confederate flag at our home. That she said this with her husband, that's besides the point. It is still her home. Of course, everyone has a First Amendment right to do and fly the flag, whichever one they want. But they don't have the right to be appointed to the ethics board. The Confederate flag, I was born and raised in the South. Maybe a lot of y'all in here tonight haven't even been to the South, but I was born and raised in the South all my life until I came to Buffalo. And the Confederate flag is a reminder of a painful memories of our history. And it's unfortunately, in reality, it's a sign of racism that still persists today. As a black man who lives in this town and loves my neighborhood, I believe that it will send a wrong message to someone who flies that flag and serves the public. Councilman Brian Nowak absolutely did the right thing, making this information, despite desperate attacks on him from previous people that he thought were his allies. His integrity is commendable. In November, I will proudly cast my vote for Brian as town supervisor. And I also want to thank Councilman Kaminsky and Pulaski, if I mess up your name, I'm sorry, for their vote against this nominee. It's time to move forward for a better future, one without racism symbols in the past. It's 2023. Thank you so much for letting me voice my opinion.
Thank you, Abe. You will always be able to voice your opinion here. Ken Young?
Hello, board members. Supervisor Diane, I looked at the video of you welcoming everybody to the community, and you said, it's a beautiful town of Cheektowaga. It's a perfect town for residents, visitors, and business alike, full of opportunity and energetic culture. Remember you said that? Mm-hmm. Okay. While the Cheektowaga community video tour sounds and looks welcoming, this issue, some of you have decided to politicize, pushes this town back down the road of not welcoming to all. Confederate flag, as we all know, is divisive, racist, loved by white supremacists. It's used to celebrate the lost cause. It is also a flag of bigotry, slavery, and segregation. I was born in Mobile, Alabama. I come here as a young kid, but in Mobile, Alabama, that sign was that flag was the flag of Mobile, of Alabama, period. And we knew our place, all right? I don't want to feel like I have to know my place now that I'm in New York, in Cheektowaga, New York. It's not right. While it's morally wrong, I feel it's morally wrong that this person should be placed on the ethic board. It's not legally wrong. She has a place legally, but morally, I feel it's wrong. Some of you are using this Confederate flag as a dog whistle to people that are like-minded and racist, but it also wakes up folks that have no use for the Confederate flag. While the Constitution guarantees free speech for all, it says nothing about morals. Flying a Confederate flag may be legal. Hiring someone in town that flies that flag may be legal. It's morally wrong and sends the wrong message to the residents and business people that may have an interest in even moving here. I don't think it's a good look for our town. Let me ask a question. Two neighbors have a flagpole. One has the American flag. The other has a Confederate flag. A young, inquisitive child recognizes the American flag, but never seen the Confederate flag and says to you guys, what is that flag? Why is that flag there? What does that flag mean? What would you tell them? How would you explain that flag to them? Would you tell them the truth, or would you just say, it's their expression, they can do what they want to do? With an impressionable child, they need to be told the truth so that we don't have this. This is the North against the South. Because every time somebody comes up here.
Sorry, Ken, your time is up.
Thank you.
But thank you for coming tonight. Gary Borick.
Ken Young, my neighbor, knows I agree with everything he said. But this isn't about the flag. This is about this man's abuse of power in a way that he never should have abused it. This isn't about Julie Parkey. It's about how he handled the matter. A woman who flew a flag for 3 days, she didn't fly it, her husband flew it. She complained about it, he took it down. 3 days. 6 years ago. Why didn't he call her and ask her, Julie, what's with that flag you saw on your property? Why didn't he give her a chance to explain? Why didn't he ask her that? Why did he bring it up here after he said he did his due diligence and he didn't, because he didn't look into the facts? He shows that he's incompetent. He starts off by saying, I know it's protected speech. Well, the next words out of your mouth is a council person should not be, and I'm about to impose some type of imposition on the person through my power, because that's exactly what the Constitution prohibits. And he did it with the largest audience possible. And then his excuse, well, if I did it in private, people would damn me for doing it in private because I'm not transparent. So I'm going to damn the resident instead to protect myself from criticism. Now, even if it were about the flag, what he did puts the town at risk. It's a violation of her First Amendment rights. Even if she did fly it, even if she was the person who flew it, it's a violation of her First Amendment rights what he did. And in that regard, I want to read to the town council. This is a writing by David Goldberger. He's the ACLU attorney who represented the Nazis in the Skokie March. And he recently wrote an article just 3 years ago. Central to the ACLU's mission is the understanding that if the government can prevent lawful speech because it is offensive and hateful, then it can prevent any speech it dislikes. In other words, the power to censor Nazis includes the power to censor protest of all stripes. And then here's how he ended his article. Ironically, Skokie's efforts to enjoin the Nazi demonstration replicate the efforts of the segregationist communities to enjoin the civil rights marches by Martin Luther King. He understood, as a Jewish lawyer who is representing a man who pushes hatred towards him, that the First Amendment is a necessary part of our community. And if we don't uphold it as part of the board, then we die on that Constitution. Your vote tonight should reflect the fact, not that you support the Confederate flag, that's not the issue. Not that you're against racism, we expect all of you to be against racism. What you support the fact is that you don't approve of the behavior he engaged in. The Cheektowaga School District and the Kenmore East School District just decided that they're not going to put up with the behavior of their team members. Not because of what they did, but because of what they did.
Thank you, Gary. And our last speaker is Sandy Prissville.
I'm actually going to speak to the resolution itself.
Hold on.
I'm not going to revisit past history because it's past history. This resolution is not even worth the paper it's printed on.
Around, don't pass through here.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, he's just trying to.
Do I
sign.
get more time since you talked over me?
Yes, I stopped the timer, yes.
Okay, so in this resolution, there is, first of all, it needs to be pulled out of the consent agenda and voted on separately, first of all, which nobody has mentioned so far. It should not be part of the consent agenda. I want to see how you all vote on this. And I think a lot of other people do too. To put in a resolution an accusation of bribery, come on, give me a break. Really? I mean, if Brian was accused of bribery, why didn't you refer him to law enforcement? Why didn't you refer him to the DA? This is not bribery. Offering to help a man on his campaign for re-election is not bribery. Mark Wagner decided not to run. That's on him. This is all, to use plain language, BS. I won't say the word because I don't want to be accused of swearing. So okay. Now let's get on to the other thing. If you apply to be on an ethics board in any town, you should know, and if Ms. Parks didn't know this, she should know it, social media is forever. And any employer, many employers today, for either appointed positions or paid positions, look at a person's social media to see what kind of character they have. So she should have expected it. She should have scrubbed her social media if she didn't want it seen. And that's all I have to say on that. Please pull this out. I want this discussed and voted on separately as it should be, not part of it, snuck in as part of the consent agenda. Thank you.
Scott Weaver?
How you doing? First of all, has anybody even said anything about polling cars hitting his girlfriend? I mean, nobody cares about that.
Hey,
I get the...
you're out of order, please.
Yeah.
Please, yeah, let's just let him speak.
Really don't faze me. So, polling cars goes and hits his woman. How come nobody's saying anything about that? 2 women got raped. How come nobody says anything about that? You give an address out. I could easily give your address out and everybody else's address out. How come I wouldn't do that, though? Okay, I mean, this is all garbage. So anyways, we're talking about race and everything. I have 2 Korean kids. I don't hear nobody saying anything about things like that, right?
Supervisor?
Liberal
Supervisor.
progressives, you always have something to say.
Supervisor Benchkowski, I believe that this should be part of the end comment period. If you would like to speak, this is supposed to be on resolution items.
Kim, you're out of order.
Also,
It says resolution
I know
items.
4 people that was sitting in a picture with Nowak, that was with Arab American people. 4 of them I know. They hate Jews and they hate Christians. How come nobody says anything about that?
Point of order.
Shut up.
Absolutely.
I'm always out of order.
Absolutely.
How come nobody says anything about
I
that?
have to take
You say-
control of the meeting, please.
You sit there and you say, what that girl did, she shouldn't have done. She should not have done, I agree with you. But anybody ever go to Europe? Did you go to Auschwitz? Auschwitz is still open. Dachau is still open. You
Please.
people are
Let him speak.
canceling.
He's trying to make a point about racism, okay? Please, if you
people
don't
are
understand it, and that's
canceling
about the resolution.
Everything, okay? Europe keeps everything open. You should know about Russia because your boy went to Russia. Russia keeps everything open. Why want the flag? Oh, well.
All right. Who's talking? You can't talk during the meeting. Please. I'm going to have you removed.
You people are canceling American history. History's supposed to be meant that once you do it, you learn from it and you don't redo your mistakes ever again. Okay? I don't agree with the flag. I don't agree with racism. I dealt with it with my kids being Korean, and none of you say anything about any of that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call this portion of the meeting to a close. However, I want to explain to you why I needed to let Scott finish, because he was trying to talk about Resolution 2023-5. Yes, so that's what, 523, 2023-523. I was letting him speak because it sounded like he had a point to make with Brian Nowak about our resolution that we're putting forward tonight. And a lot of you spoke about racism, so that is why he was allowed to finish his comment. And I please ask, don't interrupt when somebody's speaking. I'm trying to hold everybody to a minimum here tonight, so I would appreciate it. With that being said, we're going to close this comment period and move on to public hearings. Madam Clerk, could you go to the first public hearing?
A call for public hearing was made at the September 12th, 2023 Town Board meeting regarding 37 McNaughton Avenue, Cheektowaga, New York, 14225. That would be SBL number 10238-8. The property has become dangerous and unsafe to the general public and unfit for the purpose for which it is lawfully to be used. No comments were received for this public hearing at my office.
You have the floor, Craig McConaughey. He's our fire inspector.
Yes, just waiting for him to get the screen ready.
Oh, okay.
All right, while we're waiting for Kim, my name is Craig McConaughey. I'm the fire inspector for the town of Cheektowaga. I'm here to represent the building and plumbing department in the matter of 37 McNaughton and the possible demolition. Kim, you can go to the next slide. All right, March 2016, Deborah Glad, the owner of the building, had passed, and it was left in this state to either her son or husband. We were unable to determine who it was. August 2016 was the first time that we cut the grass. Then we received our first report of the building being vacant in October of 2016. After that, we began periodic maintenance of the grass for the next several years. It was scheduled to go to the tax auction for Benlick, the Erie County Land Bank, in 2020, and that auction was canceled due to the pandemic. The following March, Benlick no longer wished to pursue the property due to the conditions of it. You can go to the next one, Kim. 2021, we got a complaint from the neighbors that the building had been abandoned for 20 years. We had no record of it being abandoned prior to 2016. Then this year, earlier on, the rear wall was boarded up. A large portion of the soffit had fallen out. A large portion of the roof had collapsed. On June 8th, I sent a mailing to the owner at a address in the town. It was not responded to within 30 days. And so then we applied for a administrative search warrant through the town courts, and it was granted, and it was executed on the 10th of July. Can we go to the next one? Property has a long list of complaints. I believe it is 25 grass cutting complaints and another 30 or so property maintenance complaints going forward. I'm going to skip right past that one. Can we go to the first pictures? I'm sorry, it was 25 complaints for grass and high weeds and 11 complaints for property maintenance. And has been monitored as zombie status since 2019. It is 37 McNaught is located on the south side of McNaught Avenue, backing up to, I believe it is 42, I'm drawing a blank on the name there. Next slide. Okay, so here's the first floor plan, standard Cape-style home. Next one. Same thing, third bedroom on the second floor with giant crawl spaces. Front of the property, from the outside, it doesn't look like it's in terrible condition from the front. Then you get to the back, where you can see the boards there is where we did the board of the breach. Bedroom number 2, this leads me to believe that it was more recently more further back abandoned than 20 years. The kitchen, that is all water infiltration damage from the roof leaking on this front wall. If I had gone through that front door when we had forced entry, I would have ended up in the basement because the floor is essentially gone. And then the rest of the building is ceilings are collapsed, rot everywhere. The front wall is about ready to collapse, as well as the back wall. And then that is essentially the long and short of the property here. And if you have any questions, I will take them.
Town board members, any questions? I'll see if anybody signed up here. Yes, I think that's it. Craig, you're the only one that signed in to speak. So with that being said, I'll close this public hearing, and we'll move on to the next public hearing. Madam Clerk?
A call for public hearing was made at the September 12th, 2023 Town Board meeting, Resolution 2023-478, in relation to Jeffrey Palumbo, the project attorney, on behalf of Halley Properties LLC, is requesting a rezoning of property located at 4814 Transit Road from C Retail Business to MS Motor Service District, and also requesting a special use permit for the property to be used for motor service use. All parties and interests and citizens will be given an opportunity to be heard. 3 emails were received by my office and forwarded to the town board members, albeit one was just earlier this afternoon, and they also received it at the planning department for review.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Palumbo from the law firm of Block Longo. I represent the petitioner. I'm here with Randy Bebout from Bowler Engineering. He has done all the engineering on the project. The property is located at the corner of Transit Road and Jessica Lane. The proposal today is to request this board to rezone the property from its current zoning classification of C1 to MS. And the purpose of the rezoning would be to allow us to build an America Tire store. Randy's going to go over very quickly the site plan that we are proposing. A couple of things that I would like to point out. We have been to the planning board several times. they have recommended approval of both the special use permit and the rezoning to MS. There are a number of uses in C1 that I think it's very critical to point out and for this board to hear that I think would be more intrusive to the neighborhood than we are proposing. The C1 zoning classification would allow things like hotels and motels on that corner. It would also allow things like laundromat and even restaurants. And Randy will go into some of the details on the hours of operation, but suffice to say that the hours of operation for this America Tire store will be far less than any of those uses that I've just pointed out. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and Randy will also point to on the site plan, is the extensive landscaping that we propose for the site itself. We understand that we have residences to the north and to the west and to the south. The property to the north on Jessica is zoned commercial as well, and I think that's important to point out. But we have indicated to the planning board and to the several trips that we've made to the EAC committee meetings that we will buffer those areas extensively. We will put berms and we will put trees in there so that we will do our very best to buffer the area so that folks are looking at landscaping rather than the building itself. So with that, I would just ask Randy to run through the site plan very quickly, and we'll entertain any questions that you have.
Good evening. I'll just quickly go through some operation stuff. So hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. On Saturday, and closed on Sunday. Number of employees will vary between 8 and 10 employees. In regards to truck deliveries, they will get a tractor trailer delivery 1 to 2 times per week. And then they would get some smaller box trucks, yes.
I have a question on the tractor trailers.
Can you just let them do the presentation first, and then can you wait, or?
Okay.
They'll get some smaller, we good?
Yes, go ahead. and
We'll
then
get some small,
take
they would have
questions.
some smaller box trucks a couple times a week as needed to get tires that they might not have in stock. They do tires and wheels only. There's no oil change, there's no brakes, there's no any other services as part of this operation. So just to talk about the site plan, the lighter gray box is the main building. It's approximately 6,300 square feet. The darker gray, closer to transit, that is a canopy that customers can drive in. So when they come to the site, they drive under the canopy, they can check in. That's the 2 inner lanes, and then the outer lane is an air check. If you're hopping your car in the morning and your air light is on, you can pull up and somebody would be there to put air in your tires. We have 2-way circulation around the site. We're proposing a driveway, a 2-way access driveway onto Jessica Lane. We're also proposing a right-in, right-out onto Transit Road, which is the intent of where the trucks would enter and exit. And as Jeff said, we are providing, you can see it on the landscape plan here. I had sent the file, but you might not have that yet. But we are proposing a row of landscaping on the north, south, and on the west side. That would be up on a 24 to 30-inch berm so that we're buffering the site on the 3 sides. I would note that the zoning on both the north and the south is commercial, to the west is residential. We don't need any setback variances. We meet the parking setback, the building setback, et cetera. We have the dumpster enclosure material which would match the building. The building would be constructed of aluminum composite material, combination of aluminum composite material and masonry block on the lower level for durability. With that, we can answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, we will allow Jerry Kaminsky to go first.
You're talking about bringing the semis in off of Transit or off of Jessica Lane?
Transit.
Is that, unless this picture is not very clear I've got, is that a bit of a island to guide them in to the right coming in off?
Yeah, so the pink highlighted area, that would actually be mountable.
Yeah, I think, am I correct, that's only got a 20-foot radius?
We don't have a radius dimension on that. It's,
This one I've got.
yeah, that I think what you're, I can't exactly see what you're looking at. I think you're looking at the original layout. What is shown up here is the amended plan with the right in, right out that we're working through with DOT.
Yeah, I don't know, but, this is the current one I've got.
That was attached to the minutes, correct?
Yes, and that's what I'm curious about, I just can't
It
imagine.
would be bigger than 20 foot, yes.
Well, I still can't imagine swinging a 53 foot
So
off
that,
the road.
this plan actually, again, it's hard to see, but this plan actually has the truck turning template on it. So, the north and the south sides are delineated, and then the island in the middle would be a raised mountable island. The point of that is that the trucks can drive, the tractor trailers can drive over that, and it would help prevent cars from taking a left out or a left in. We've skewed the driveway such that it would discourage that movement, and it would be signed accordingly.
So I think the other issue I got is the noise. I would probably suppose most of the tools you're using are air-powered.
They are using air tools, that's correct.
And I remember reading something in here that there was a question about trying to keep the doors closed, which I think it was reported you cannot do that.
The intent would that the doors would not be closed because of the amount of cars coming in and out. They're servicing cars in the range of about 15 to 20 minutes to put the tires on, and they would prefer not to have those doors be opening and closing. They're not automatic. It would, from an operational standpoint, it would give them a little bit of a hardship to be opening and closing those doors constantly.
So am I correct in assuming that the doors are going to be open all winter? It's going to be pretty noisy for the residents right across the street.
Which is why we're trying to build that buffer on the north side as high as possible with the berm and the evergreen trees and pine trees on top of it. And we think that that will be a sound dampening noise so that they won't hear that. If we have to close the doors in the wintertime, we'll talk to our client about that, and if it's something that the board thinks is a condition that needs to be attached to the zoning.
Well, I think on Jessica Lane, sir, there's, basically 4 houses across the street. There's one to the west and one to the south. And just so you know, I'm in the truck repair business and equipment. We use a lot of air tools to the point every person in my place has to wear earplugs.
Yeah, and again, I think it all goes back to the trade-off of what could be developed there other than this. And the trade-off here is that you do have the air tools, and we will do everything we can to deaden that sound. But I don't think it's better to have a restaurant on that corner, for example, or a bank with a drive-through at all hours of the night. And that's the trade-off, I think.
Well, I think the whole thing is you're putting up a tire shop, not a restaurant, correct?
That's correct, but the property is Zone C1.
I understand that.
So that's what I'm saying. The other uses, I think, are more intrusive than what we're proposing.
Well, on that corrected drawing, where are you going to put all the snow?
We have the perimeter areas are all green space. We have some area between the curb and the plantings that we're proposing to put snow storage. We meet the green space requirements.
Let's put it this way, I would not want to snowplow it myself.
Any other questions, Jerry?
Nope, that's it.
I have a few. Okay. Years ago, must have been in 2017 maybe, there was a proposal to put an office building in there, which I think would be better than this tire shop. So weren't you the owners back then?
It might have been the same owner. It's Donato that owns it.
Yes,
Yeah,
he
I think that
was,
was the same owner. But to me, the last thing you want there is an office building, because there are so many vacant office buildings all over Western New York following COVID. There's just no market for office buildings. There's just none.
but it would probably be better for the neighborhood there. My other concern is we also have 2 other tire service centers within a mile of this one, right down Transit heading north, which would be the Monroe Auto Service and Tire Center near Madeira, and the Goodyear Tire Center near Wegmans, both less than a mile down the street. And I think there's a couple across on Transit on the Lancaster side. So, I mean, do we really need another tire
Well, well,
place?
first of all, our client has done a study that indicates that it would be advantageous to have it there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be proposing it. That's number one. Number two, as you know, you can't legislate against a Tim Hortons going in and a Dunkin' Donuts going in down the street, or a Wendy's and a McDonald's and a Burger King. You know, that's free enterprise. That's the way it is. And we wouldn't be putting it there if we did not think there was a market for it.
Okay, well said. However, you're right near a neighborhood, right across the street. The single and double family homes are down that whole residential street. So that's why you're in front of us today,
Sure.
because you want the motor services rezoning and special use permit, correct?
Correct.
So we'd have to rezone it for you.
It does have to be rezoned, correct, in order to put the tire store there. And again, we'd just point out that the property across the street is also zoned commercial.
What property across the street?
The property on Jessica, directly across the street from us, is Zone C1.
There's a double duplex
Yeah,
there.
it's true, it's being used residentially, but it's zoned commercial.
That west line of
Oh,
this project, if you go north and south, those properties are zoned commercial.
Okay, okay. And I thought that we had our town code about using a residential side street as a, having your parcel going out to that instead of on the main transit road. So nobody brought that up to you? Don't we have that, Jerry? Or did they change it?
Evidently changed something.
Well,
I think you need,
I mean, DOT has told us they would not permit a full access here.
okay, we're gonna, is Rick Coburn here? How about, Craig, do you know anything about that? Is that, we don't have the town attorney here. Anybody else from the building department? Who's here? Oh, Dan, perfect, all right.
How are we doing?
Hi, the exit from this property being on Jessica Lane,
Yes.
I thought that's against our town code.
If it is, it's something that we did overlook, and I apologize for that. This item was referred to the Traffic and Safety Committee. We have not had comment back from that this time. That's a point I'm going to bring up with Mr. Vogel, Traffic and Safety Officer assigned to that committee, tomorrow at the EAC, and kind of just gather what's going on with comment from that committee at this time. It's just an item that got overlooked. There's a lot of
Well,
pieces to
and
these.
we've done waivers or maybe
Sure.
special use permit for that, but that's a concern because it's right across the street.
Right, and I
from
believe
that.
a special use permit would address that,
Mhm.
but this is something that we would have to study.
Can you
know,
please
road
look
weighting,
into that?
grading.
'Cause I know we've had that issue before with some other properties, but we've also granted the special use permit on Madeira from that little plaza
Mhm.
across from where the old Louis hot dog.
Yes, yep.
See, Louis doesn't go on to Madeira, but eventually we had to let the plaza because
Yeah, the plaza across the street, which I think is
there was not an exit on.
adjacent to the Target.
Right. But because with more development on transit, we had to allow it. So there might be a way to do that if the board would like to.
Right.
So if you could check into that for
Yeah,
them, that'd be
absolutely. We can
good.
definitely have that ready and identify tomorrow for the EAC and have comment on that at
Mhm.
at that meeting.
I'm sure Pat Bowen might even know that
Yeah,
right off the
okay.
bat, too. Thank
Any other
you.
questions while I'm up there?
Anybody else while Dan's there? Councilmember Pilarski?
Not for Dan, it's actually for these guys. Okay.
All right, whoever, yeah.
All right.
Just,
Um,
thank you, Dan.
would-
You're welcome.
Would your client be willing to go with a deed restriction if this was rezoned for MS to where there was no mechanical repair shops, paint shops, stuff like that?
Yes.
Gas station, for example?
No collision. no-
Correct.
Correct.
So they're willing to go that route?
We have
Perfect.
no problem with that.
And my second and last question for this is, where will the storage of the used tires be? Will it be outside or inside the facility? Will they be outside near the dumpster? You know,
All the storage will be inside. There's no outside storage.
thank you.
Councilmember Noack?
Yeah, the supervisor brought up some of the other tire shops in the area, and when I was taking a look at the site personally and looking at some of the other sites, there are tires that are stored outside. So, again, you're committing that the tire storage will be inside the building if this is done?
Absolutely. There will be no outside storage.
That's interesting. We might have to look into if that's, was part of the original plan, or those other two, I don't know.
Yeah, just to be clear, that there is a basement in the building being proposed, and that's where the tires will be stored, no outside storage.
Behind somebody's- okay. Councilmember Linda Hammer?
I'm looking at your diagram, and those spaces that are behind your store going are the ones that are in back, not up by transit, in the back of your lot. What is the distance between the end of your lot and the homes that are behind there?
I think we're about 20 from the back edge of curb of those parking spaces to the property line.
20 feet?
Yeah, we're about 28
feet.
28 feet.
And
With-
where is your drainage going? Do you have a retention or detention basin?
So that, I can point to it.
Mhm.
This is an underground, would be a proposed underground storage system. There is a ditch that runs along the south side of the property. So we would capture the on-site runoff into that underground detention system. We haven't done the full design yet. We've got a geotech. We'll have to do some infiltration testing. But ultimately, that would discharge to that ditch, which is where it's going today.
Okay, one more question. The positioning of that dumpster. That's, I mean, I know how noisy it is when a truck comes and empties the dumpster. Is there enough turning radius for a big truck to get in there and empty that dumpster?
Yes, there is.
I'm sure it doesn't look like it, but,
There
I mean,
is-
the positioning of it too, you have it back as far as you can, closest to the residents that live back there.
Yeah, so this area you see here, this is the concrete area, so this is all clear pavement area.
I get it.
So the truck can come in, back up, and go on.
And so that's just about 28 feet from the residents, a little bit over.
That's actually a little bit closer
Yeah.
than the curb, I mean, it sets a little bit back from the curb line.
And is Craig here anymore? I think he left. I was
Craig?
gonna ask about storing the tires in the basement. I mean, if there was ever a fire.
So the building will be sprinklered. We have talked to, through the EAC meetings, we have talked to the building department about, they have to meet all the fire code requirements, certainly. But they're doing it at other locations, so they'll be complying with the building code requirements.
Just concerned about that.
And just back to your original question, just to point out again that we exceed the green space requirements and we exceed the setback requirements, so we have no variances needed for any of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna, did you sign in? Because we're.
No, I didn't know.
Okay, hold on one second, okay? We're still the town board's going first, then you can go next. Can you, Sergeant? Councilmember Jazinski?
Yes, looking at this site, wouldn't you think that it would be better served if it was further down transit in a more underserved community? I mean, what makes this such an attractive site? I mean, just when you thought Transit Road couldn't be developed, here we go, another shop.
Well, number one is it was available, and number two, the way that we could design the building on the site worked out so that we did not need any variances and became a perfect site for the building.
Any other council members?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of concern looking at this because I've walked that property. And I do believe basically to west where the wooded section is, that's a drainage ditch that runs across there. Oh, God, I think it winds up, it kind of meanders around behind the houses. Is that where your excess water is going to go?
The drainage ditch is parallel to the south line. There's actually an easement to the town. So it doesn't, we wouldn't be impacting that drainage ditch as far as disturbing it. We would be discharging our underground water system to it. And the water currently today sheet flows, the majority of it sheet flows off the site into that drainage ditch. So we would be disturbing more than an acre. We'd have to do a SWIP. We'd have to meet the pre-development runoff rates.
Right.
And which way does that go, though? Towards the city or
It
towards Lancaster?
heads to the west.
That's where all these trees are.
Oh, dear. Well, there's a problem with that.
Yeah, that's-
Fun.
Does that, sorry, does that end up in, what is it, Slate Bottom Creek? That little creek
not-
that runs
No,
to Borick?
I'm not sure, but
I'm
there's a
pretty
problem
sure
with
it
that
does.
drainage ditch that we still are waiting to
Right.
have them camera and clean that out,
Right,
so.
I think it does though, because we had talked about this when they built those apartments there.
Mhm.
And they had to connect into that too.
But that's down a little, so.
Not too far though, but I
Right.
think that's what you're talking about,
Mhm.
correct?
No.
Piping, when you have your underground drainage, it's going to go towards
It's
that
gonna be,
little creek.
it's gonna be discharged to the ditch, that's correct.
Just the ditch. The ditch actually goes to the other curve around Jessica.
Within
to
our
the
property.
Prince's, right.
And just reiterate, we're not proposing to modify the ditch.
Okay.
I mean, if it needs to be cleaned, then
Well,
it could be
we'll
cleaned.
have
but-
to check that
But we're
out.
not
Yeah.
proposing to modify the cross-section of that ditch, or even
Okay.
disturb it.
Right, but it's good to know that you
Yep.
would be doing that, so we have to make sure that it's
Right.
maintained to code. Any other council members? Okay, so I'm going to open up, Sergeant, thank you, to the public hearing. I'll let the residents speak, but you're allowed to speak for 3 minutes only, and this is a public hearing, so please state your name and your address when you speak. So the first speaker is Dan Jones.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Again, my name is Dan Jones. I live at 130 Dean Road. We have heard some exciting speeches tonight. This will not be an exciting speech at all, so if I put you to sleep, I apologize. I'm here now in my capacity as a member of the Planning Board and as a member of the public to address some of the concerns I had about this project. One of them primarily would be trucks in a residential neighborhood going down Jessica Lane. Currently, the entrance on Transit Road is a 2 yellow line entrance, so there is no legal entrance from Transit Road. I do think the town board members, all of them that spoke, brought up some very legitimate and valid points. You know, this is an issue that isn't about, and there's so much of this meeting tonight is going to be about partisanship and politics, but this is a residential concern. To be fair, I have spoken with the developer in my capacity as a planning board member. It sounds like there might be some progress with the DOT, so I mean, that's a good thing. I did vote no on the special use permit, as long though, and I'm not sure as well if this is the right location for motor services. It would be a spot zone. I very much believe in a more comprehensive form of planning, one that is more sensible and congruent, as our comprehensive plan calls for. And I'm very concerned about the residential impact, not only with noise, but trucks on their street. Delta Sonic is across the street. I don't see enough traffic mitigation measures. I actually did speak with Chief Gould, who informed me that any decision regarding changing the 2 yellow lanes on Transit Lane would need to be approved by state DOT. So there would really be nothing that the town board would be able to do. I don't know how long that process would take. So I have an open mind towards the project. If the developer can address some of the traffic and quality of life concerns, it may change my vote. However, as of now, and given everything we're seeing, and despite some, I think, very, very good and commendable efforts from the developer, I cannot, in good conscience as a planning board member, continue to support this project. So thank you all for your time and for all of your comments. I think all of you brought up some very good points and spoke. So, and to the developer as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Mark Van Inderstein? Oh, I'm sorry, Marie.
I live at 18 Jessica Lane, which is about where they want to put that entrance exit right there. So they can say, well, we'll keep the noise down. Well, how do you keep the noise down on air-powered tools? You don't. You've all gone in and got your tires changed. That's what you hear. I'm going to hear that all day long. I retired to have to be up now at 8 a.m. when they start their job because I'm going to hear that all day from 8 a.m. You know, we have accidents already at the corner. I don't know if anyone's looked into how many. There's a lot. You know why? Because they all run that light. And when it's rush hour, you can't even get out of Jessica Lane because they all block the street and because the cars are backed up almost down to where Louis is, or was. You know, there's no way that you can add more traffic. You put those apartment buildings in, you let them build that, you know, so when the trees are bare, that's all I see is, you know, all those lights from all those windows over there now. Now you want to put a commercial building. I ask every one of you, what's outside your front window? Do you have a building with garage doors open and power tools going all day? Is that what you see? Or do you see a neighbor with a lawn that's mowed? When we moved in there 30 years ago, there was a house there. I know. And the lawn was mowed. And it was well kept. Now, if they own this property now, they make all these promises. Have they fixed the sidewalk that they busted last winter because they use a plow truck to clear the sidewalks? And there's big ruts along the sidewalk? Is that how they take care of this property now? What are they going to do when they do all that? You're going to tell me a 24-inch berm is going to deaden the sound? I don't think so. You know, that's a residential street. Those are residential houses. My house is in commercial zone that I know of, you know, and I'm across the road. It's a little bitty 2-lane road. If 2 cars are coming and there's a car parked, you gotta wait. That's how narrow it is. And now they're gonna be putting these trucks in there. Their approach that's farther towards transit, that's all busted up from the trucks that they've been letting rent the property to dump blacktop and stone and all the garbage from the highway projects. That's how they take care of it. There's 8-foot-tall weeds over there. Do they care? No. If they don't care now, they're not going to care then when they put that in and they're making money. And what happens in 5 years when it falls down because they're not making enough money? Then who moves in there? Then what do? Rezone it again for the next person to, you know, put in a car lot or something? You know, it just doesn't make sense. The house that's next to that, to the left, that house is like 15 feet from the property line. You know, we're not talking 100 feet away. It's that close to the property line. You know, they have an in-ground pool. How much are they going to enjoy it with all those people in their parking lot and a dumpster, which is going to be basically 30 feet from their pool? You know, I mean, again, I ask you, what do you see when you look out your front window? Do you see that? Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Okay, Robert? Yeah, from 29, Jessica? Can you state your name and address?
I'm Robert Skrzyncki from 29 Jessica, and I'm totally against the project, the rezoning. The town had a master plan drawn up, I was told, in 1995 or 1996.
We have a more recent one.
Okay, more recent one, and it was zoned as commercial retail.
Mhm.
I don't see a hotel going in there. There's no room for that. A small retail place like the house was used for when I purchased my home in 2005 is what it should be. Business hours can change too. They're saying now 8 till 6. Business hours can change till later, till 9 o'clock. They can open on Sunday. Landscaping is great. I'm all for landscaping. I have my whole yard totally landscaped, but landscaping is not going to hold back any noise that you hear, and especially with garage doors open. And the last thing that totally needs to be brought to the board before any decision is made, there is a town-wide easement for the drainage ditch that was mentioned. That ditch is town-owned, and the town has not been maintaining it. I've been calling the engineering department, and I've never had any of my phone calls returned to have the ditch cleaned out, and the ditch is actually flooding into my yard already, and I have standing water in my backyard from that ditch. When I first moved in 2005, it used to get a trickle when it rained, and within an hour or two, the ditch was dried up. Now the water stays all summer long.
Okay.
So I am totally against this. I realize it is zoned commercial. I knew that when I bought my property. I'm 3 houses down from this. I'm going to be affected by it. And I think we're looking at the wrong piece of commercial property to be going in here. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Rodriguez?
Hello, my name is Nancy Rodriguez. I reside at 49 Jessica Lane. I just want to address this rezoning issue. I have several points to make. First of all, there is zero capacity for any additional motor vehicle traffic at the intersection of Transit Road and Jessica Lane since the Delta Sonic business was built. When I come home from work in the evening and when trying to make a left-hand turn onto Jessica, even though there's a traffic signal, the car traffic is severely backed up and the line of cars block the entrance to my street even when the light is green for me to make my turn. The Delta Sonic traffic is very heavy even in the early morning when I'm on my way to work. Number two, regardless if this is a retail business or motor services, this type of business bases their revenue on the volume of car traffic that they see in a day. Their business hours may be 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., most likely Monday through Saturday. This additional volume would be outrageous and unmanageable. Number three, old discarded tires are an absolute eyesore, which will impact our property values. This is a very significant issue for the homeowners on Jessica Lane. Number four, to date there have been two houses that caught fire on Jessica Lane. The most recent fire was the ranch house located on the north side of Jessica near the curb that leads to North Prince. This fire started the summer of 2020. Years ago, the house on the corner of Jessica and North Prince started on fire as well. There was so much ash flying in the air that the entire street went to see this fire. The firemen were on the roof of the house breaking through with their axes, and the homeowner was hysterical because her dog was still in the house. So what's the point? What would the impact be to the residents if this business were ever to start on fire? Burning tires would create hazardous, thick black smoke, and burning tires are impossible to extinguish. So based on the fact that there have already been two house fires, you can never say never to this possibility. I've been a resident of Jessica Lane ever since I built my house in 1987, and I stand firm against this proposal. There are many residents of Jessica Lane who have built their homes when I did and are still living on this street. We are a tight-knit group, and we will stand against any such action that threatens our home values, impacts the beauty of our homes on the street, and poses a hazardous threat to the entire neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 4808 Transit. Yes. Just state your name and address when you go up, please.
My time's up?
No, that was Nancy's. You go ahead.
My name is Jackie Braytek, and actually, I live on Borden Road, but my mother lives at 4808 Transit, which is directly next door to this proposed entity. And some concerns and just comments. Number one, the ditch that they're referring to, that ditch has been there since my mother moved in 1960. And to point out what the other gentleman had said, that yes, that ditch has not been maintained. Last time I think I saw anybody, that was over 20 years ago, with a lot of overgrown bushes and trees and whatnot. Even though there's a berm that they're proposing, on the left side of my mother, they have been paving ever since they took over. That property is now about 3 feet higher than hers, and all the water flows into the one side of their home. All I can see is on the other side now with this berm, and all of a sudden snow being pushed and runoff water, that ditch cannot hold additional water and would probably eventually flow into my mother's yard. So in that respect, I'm very concerned about drainage and the ditch and its maintenance, et cetera. I'm concerned about, like some of the others have proposed, the garbage. On the left side of them, there's dumpsters there. They don't maintain. People come in there to throw whatever they want in there. We get everybody's garbage that comes from that side of the business. I found TVs in her backyard, all kinds of stuff. As soon as someone knows there's a dumpster on the other side, I could see it overflowing and coming into not only Jessica residents, but our own. Trucks I'm concerned with. I live on Borden Road. Tractor trailers aren't even supposed to come down my street, but you know what? They do. They bypass Transit, they bypass Lawson, they bypass French, and they come down Borden. They can't make turns, they get stuck, whatever. I can see them going, hey, it doesn't show on my GPS that this isn't a truck route, and I can see them attempting to bypass all the traffic to go down their street to get to there. I even can't get the garbage people to come to my mother's house because the traffic's so backed up, they don't want to be bothered to come down the street to get her garbage. I'm constantly calling. You allowed, not you personally, but over the years, you allowed Jessica, my mother's been there, grandfathered in for years, you allowed them to be there to build their homes and to have beauty. Please take care of them and make sure that this does not go in where they are affected. You need to protect them, not hurt them. We have plenty of businesses, I think, to your point, a nice office building, a dental office. I mean, there's a lot of other things other than that. They can't say you're not going to hear it because you will. We hear Delta Sonic, and they do a very nice job. They keep it clean, and they don't have long hours. They shut down by 9, but you know what? You hear the stuff every day. And people do run those traffic signals. They come out of Delta Sonic at 60 miles an hour. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to close this hearing.
Can I clarify a couple points?
Yes.
Number one, we don't own the property, so we have nothing to do with the existing sidewalk or the problems that were being described with the current owner. We don't own the property, and our client is a national company that is not in the habit of letting their properties go down, so that is not going to be an issue. Number two, as I've said repeatedly, this is a trade-off. Something's going to go on that site, whether it's this or something else. Just for example, this building is 6,000 square feet. We have sufficient parking, and we don't need any setbacks. Panera is approximately 3,000 square feet. So Panera can go in there, 2 Paneras can go on that property and still meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. So that's the trade-off. What we're going to do here is limited in terms of traffic and limited in terms of hours. We will take care of the ditch on our property. If that's a problem now, that will be fixed. And this won't be approved, the drainage, unless the engineering department and all the engineers that look at it sign off on it. And ultimately, that will be the process through the site plan. So most of the issues that were discussed today, virtually all of them, have to do with site plan. This is a rezoning, not a site plan. And finally, in terms of spot zoning, the comprehensive plan calls for commercial development on this site. This is a commercial development. So I would argue against the fact when people talk about spot zoning, this is not a spot zoning. So with that, I thank you for your attention this evening.
Okay.
Again, one other point, the traffic's going to be there whether it's us or anybody else that develops that site.
Okay, thank you, sir. Please don't speak out of turn. I'm closing the public hearing now, and we'll move on to our, we got one more here?
Yes. A call for public hearing was made at the September 12th, 2023 Town Board meeting, Resolution 2023-509, to discuss and if need be, act upon the proposed enactment of a local law creating a chapter in the Town Code entitled Cannabis Establishments. Copy of the local law was available at the Town Clerk's office for review and provided to anyone who emailed the office. No comments have been received.
Did we get any comments about the cannabis law? Okay. We have, can you read it? Is it, well, it's pretty long, right? The law, yes. Never mind. It's too long to read, but hopefully it was, because at the agenda, it wasn't in there, but did you put it in with the minutes then? So people could read it? Yes. It was there online? Yes. Okay. Okay. Our first speaker is Gary Borick. When you come up, this is an official public hearing. Make sure you state your name and your address. And you have 3 minutes.
Gary Borick, 99 Victoria Boulevard, Cheektowaga. I generally favor this law, but I have some comments. I think it needs some tweaks. First, it's got a 500-foot limitation, disallowing a cannabis store within 500 feet of a school or daycare or a youth facility. I think that should be 1,000 minimum. I don't know why it's only 500 in this case. Second, I think we need to clarify the procedure here. I'm worried about it being declared unconstitutional because the procedure provides for what appears to be a pre-hearing removal of the authority to operate the store and a potential 60-day wait to have a hearing about that. I think we need to clarify that, you know, all our zoning laws are the same. If you want to enforce a zoning law, Section 268 of the New York State Town Law allows you to go to court and enforce the zoning law. You can do your violations locally, bring them before a local judge and handle it that way. This goes well beyond that. It also provides for a $1,000 a day penalty if they're found to have been operating the facility improperly. And I'm not against that, but I'd like to see that for all our zoning violations. Then we wouldn't have to worry about someone promising not to leave tires out, and when they do leave tires out, it costs them $1,000 a day. That'd be a good incentive not to do it. All those promises we hear developers making would have some teeth to it, the liability. We should do that for all. And finally, this should be a model for a homeless shelter zoning law. Perfect model for it. Because the very problems we had with homeless shelters suddenly popping up all over, documented problems, this would address those issues. This type of law would address those issues. So we should incorporate homeless shelters along with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. I don't have any speakers. Does any board member want to comment on anything in the law? I myself feel it should be changed. I think Gary Borick had brought up some good points. I would like also to increase the 500-foot from a school, church, et cetera, to 1,000 feet, and possibly increase the distance between the establishments. Also, the hours, I think we could be stricter on as far as shorter hours instead of the long hours mentioned in the, can't remember what they were, but I don't see why we couldn't do 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then have special hours on Sunday. Also, I think we need to address the cannabis lounges. They're not mentioned in here. And the new issue that came before us, which was the showcase, cannabis showcase, where they are mentioned in the New York State law, but they're not mentioned, I don't think, in this law. So I think we have to add something about those too. So those are just my suggestions for now. And we probably need to tweak this a little bit. So if anybody else, board members can send your comments to John, and maybe we can get a better law together, but we should do it sooner than later. Okay. All right, yeah, okay. Speaking, that's a good point, but speaking to that.
Yeah, I don't think they should be open Sundays at all.
That would be good for me. I agree with that, but there's no, I mean, we want to sell the cannabis, but we also want to make sure the hours aren't so crazy. That's how I feel anyway. So with that being said, I'll close this public hearing for now, and we'll have to have further discussion on that law. So I'll move on to the consent agenda announcement. Tonight we have a consent agenda as part of this meeting. If any council member wishes to remove an item for discussion, please tell me now, and I will remove the item from the consent agenda and will be added as a separate resolution item. I myself would like to remove 2023-523. Is it 525? Okay. Yes. 2023-525 I'd like to remove. Anybody else? Okay, then I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Councilmember Kaminsky, seconded by Councilmember Hammer. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And hand it back to you, Madam Clerk.
I have a motion by Supervisor Benchkowski, a second by Councilmember Hammer, to approve all items on the consent agenda, including the meeting minutes of September 12, 2023, and resolution items 2023-510 through 540. We will recognize that 525 has been pulled and will be taken as a separate item. I need a roll call vote to approve the consent agenda items. Councilmember Adamczak? Yes. Councilmember Hammer?
No.
Councilmember Jazinski? No. Councilmember Kaminsky?
No. What are we voting
I thought
We're
we
voting on the consent agenda.
The whole consent agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Just the, not,
With the one
that
pulled
last one I pulled will be after the consent agenda.
Right.
Okay, consent agenda, yes.
Councilmember Jazinski? Yes. Councilmember Kaminsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Noah?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski?
Yes.
Supervisor Benchkowski?
Yes.
That is 7 yeses. The consent agenda has passed. We will move on to separate resolution item, which is 2023-525. It is sponsored by Councilmember Jazinski, seconded by Supervisor Benchkowski. On November 2nd, 2021, Brian Nowak was elected to serve a 4-year term as a member of the Cheektowaga Town Board from January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2025. Brian Nowak sponsored Town Board Resolution 2022-237, abolishment of Deputy Superintendent of Highways. The Town Board resolution was tabled at the April 12th and April 26th, 22 meeting. The week of April 18th, 2022, a meeting was convened with members to enlighten the participants how critical and valuable the position of Deputy Superintendent of Highways is to the town. At the meeting, Brian Nowak tried to use his power to influence Mark Wagner to stop the current Deputy Superintendent of Highways from being offered a management position in the town of Cheektowaga. On August 22nd, 23, during the course of the town board meeting, Brian Nowak falsely accused a resident who had applied for a position on the town board of ethics of flying a Confederate flag. Brian Nowak knew that flying the subject flag was protected speech. He nevertheless abused his position as a public servant. The New York Constitution, pursuant to Article 8, Section 1 of the New York Constitution, Brian M. Nowak swore to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York when he took his oath of office as a Cheektowaga Town Board member. Brian Nowak abused his power as an elected official under both Section 242 of Title 18, under the Code, Section 201B1 of Title 18, offering a bribe to a public official. Town of Cheektowaga hereby concludes that Brian Nowak should be censured for his behavior set forth above, and said censure shall continue unless and until Brian Nowak issues a public apology to the victim, false claims, and innuendos.
Okay, for me on the question, I do have a few comments on this resolution. First, I think it's important for us to remember that this isn't about the Confederate flag, and this is not about racism. It's about the abuse of power by a council person trying to deprive the First Amendment rights of citizens. I do not support the Confederate flag, but I do support our constitutional right of freedom of speech. Also, under Title 42, Section 1983, this resolution will establish that these actions are not our town policy. In other words, we are showing that this is not the way we, the town, does business. The town is establishing then a defense that the town does not endorse this type of behavior. We need to protect the town by going on record that we do not condone the Confederate flag, but we also do not condone violating someone's civil rights. It is protected speech under the Constitution. If we don't vote to censure Brian Nowak for what he did, then we are condoning what he did, and we're warning residents not to apply for a voluntary or paid position within the town, because Brian Nowak will reveal anything he finds regarding them at a town board meeting. It's just important that we protect the town and go on record that we don't support this kind of behavior. Any other council members wish to speak?
I do.
Councilmember Nowak.
Oh, our rules allow the sponsor to go first, and then the second to go second, and then council members after, so.
Did you have
Did you-
anything?
Did you want to speak? Because you were the
well,
sponsor. I didn't want to
No,
go out of turn.
I called on you, I still preside over the meeting,
All
so.
right. I have reviewed the resolution to censure me, which is sponsored by Councilmember Jazinski and Supervisor Vinskowski. The resolution includes allegations that are false and baseless. I reject all the claims in this resolution that assert I did anything to violate my oath of office. In my view, and that of what I suspect is a majority of the residents of Cheektowaga, the proposed resolution is politically motivated. To say that I have engaged in unlawful conduct or offered a bribe to anyone is ridiculous and libelous. And I don't intend to stand idly by while my name is defamed with these allegations. I have retained legal counsel to assist me with this process, and I do not intend to waive any of my rights against those that have chosen to paint me as something that I'm not. I'm confident that I'll be exonerated. I believe that sunlight's truly the best disinfectant, and I welcome an independent investigation by the Erie County District Attorney's Office into the allegations made by Councilmember Jazinski and the supervisor. I'm confident that the truth will demonstrate that they are unfounded and represent nothing more than dirty politics at its worst. The residents of Cheektowaga deserve better, and I will continue to represent them to the best of my ability moving forward.
Can I say something?
Okay, Councilmember Adamsack?
On this resolution, I ask Councilmember Nowak, why was not the whole board informed of this before the meeting? I feel that this should have been talked about in executive session. We could have brought Ms. Parks back. We could have talked to her as the board and asked her what the flag was all about. You didn't do either. I found out about her not going to be picked for the Board of Ethics that day at this meeting. However, it is very sad that I sit up here and for 9 years on this board, I cannot tell you that this board has acted as one team in 9 years. And to me, that is sad. We can agree to disagree, but we could do it behind closed doors instead of coming out and sitting at a town board meeting and bickering between each other. Reason why I will vote for this is I feel that the procedure Mr. Nowak did not follow.
Councilmember Jazinski?
Councilmember Nowak talks about politicking. That's exactly what he did. He tried to paint us in this town as racists. I grew up in the Lower West Side of Buffalo. I have family of all different walks of life. I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood, probably one of the most diverse neighborhoods in our area. So I understand, but this isn't about that. This is about exactly what Christine Adamsack said. We should have done it behind closed doors and not disparaged a town resident. This has nothing to do. It's about, we are a land of laws and we have to abide them. I can assure you that none of us support racism. And we're the North. We beat the South. So I don't know why the hell we're even talking about this.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilmember Pilarski. Councilmember Pilarski.
So I shared my concern about this resolution, that right out of the gate, it comes out with accusations of bribery. I'm not in support of that because I'm concerned about the liability. You know, there's been no investigation, no call for an investigation, no judge, no jury to find him guilty or anything. So that makes me concerned for the town and anybody who votes yes on this, that they're liable for it. His actions in regards to the Board of Ethics, could he have taken another route? Absolutely, there's many different approaches. Does he wish he'd take another route? I don't know, we'd have to ask him that. But I'm concerned about coming right out of the gate with the accusations, especially now that he's really just put the whole town board on notice that he's sought legal counsel there. So for that reason, I cannot support this resolution. I've asked for it to be changed and shared my concerns about it. The last line of it also says that he's censored until he apologizes. the definition of a censor is really just a reprimand that goes into one's file. There's no legal actions, doesn't kick him out of office, doesn't, get rid of him or anything. It's not a gag order, so that line right there also concerned me on the interpretation on what a censor is from this town board. So I will not be supporting this resolution for those reasons. I'm all for putting a resolution, let's investigate them. Let's call for an
Well, we
investigation.
can add amendment if you'd like. I have an amendment ready to go.
I'm all for calling for an investigation on the accusations that he was trying to bribe the superintendent of highways. So I'll be the first one to put my name on that resolution to call for, we don't even need a resolution, I'll call for an investigation. I don't care, because if wrongdoing was reported, let's approach that and go with it.
Yes. Well, we can add another, be it further resolved before the final result, or take that out and mention that the town special counsel or any kind of counsel with respect to this matter immediately commence and prosecute litigation in a court of competent jurisdiction to seek a judicial determination if Brian Nowak has indeed violated.
For me, you'd have to remove the whole resolution and start with that as a new resolution, because it's not.
I agree.
They're two different issues. There's actually three different issues now. So I think they should be treated as such.
Okay, so I'll put a resolution in for the next meeting then.
For an investigation?
Mm-hmm.
I'm on board. Yep.
Okay, we'll go forward with that. In the meantime, though, I think we're still going to take a vote on this, and, I mean, this is just this will protect us, the town, this resolution, as I mentioned earlier, that we don't condone that type of behavior, so we can't be sued by somebody else, the whole town. He'll be liable.
I
not
get
him.
that, but we
Not us.
literally were just put on notice for slander and defamation of character and libel. So
But
keep that in mind.
that's why we need to pass this, because this will protect us from that.
It doesn't protect us from that. I'm not,
Yes,
I'm not dumb here. It doesn't protect us from that.
It does. Because if there are any liability or damages, that will be on him to pay. We don't have to pay that.
No,
And we're not condoning that type of behavior.
that's wrong.
Councilman Pilarski, let me make this clear. I am upset at the way the procedure was done.
100%, yeah. I'm not saying that.
Absolutely, it's the procedure. This could have been done totally different, behind closed doors, in an executive session. That did not happen.
Well, I've got to speak on this one. This has not changed in 12 years. Actually, I think it still shows up on Facebook where I am being accused of criminal charges. Never got questioned, never got anything, got a letter, registered notice in my mailbox that the letter was at the post office from our ethics board. The biggest problem is that I couldn't get the letter from the post office because the head of the ethics board put the wrong address on it. And I was totally exonerated, although it still comes up meeting after meeting after meeting. And it's like I said, process out in the open, transparency is one of the things we like. And even I did not even want to speak on this tonight. But who determined that Mr. Nowak was bribing anybody? Who investigated it?
Well, we can put it in front of a judge or...
No. I'm asking a question, Diane. Who investigated this to say that he was bribing Mark Wagner? Who puts this together? Where did you and Mike get your information from?
We got it right from Mark Wagner.
You're kidding.
Ask
You're kidding me.
Brian Pilarski. Wait, there were other people at the meeting. Read the resolution, Jerry.
I
There were other
I did
people
read it.
at the meeting.
I did read it.
So that's where we got the information from.
Well, if he said it, it must be true.
There were others that said it. Pardon me?
Can we take a vote?
Yes, if everybody's done speaking. Okay. Madam Clerk, could we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Christine Adamczak?
Yes.
Councilmember Linda Hammer?
No.
Councilmember Michael Jazinski?
Yes.
Councilmember Jerry Kaminsky?
No.
Councilmember Brian Nowak?
While I have the right to vote yes or no on this resolution, I will abstain on the item.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski?
No.
Supervisor Diane Benchkowski?
Yes.
It is 3-3. The motion is not passed.
Okay.
We do have one item under suspension of rules. We need a motion and a second to waive the rules to include resolution item 2023-541. Do I have a motion?
Does somebody,
Do I have a motion?
Councilmember Pilarski?
Pilarski, a second. Councilmember Hammer. Resolution 2023-541 is sponsored by Supervisor Benchkowski, seconded by Councilmember Jazinski. Notice to bidders was duly published for the receipt of bids for Phase 8 of the cleaning, televising, and rehabilitation of sanitary sewer facilities through cured in place pipe for sewer shed number 10. Bids were duly received and opened on September 15th, 2023. The bid for the Phase 8 of the cleaning, televising, and rehabilitation of the sanitary sewer facilities for sewer shed 10 will be hereby awarded to National Weather Main Cleaning Company of Canton, Massachusetts, for the base bid price of $3,480,299, being the lowest bid, meeting the requirements of the specifications.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution has passed. For communications, under departmental communications, we received the supervisor's statement of funds from May 2023 and the 2024 tentative benefit basis budget. General communications, we received 4 notices of claim and 1 notice of summons and complaint.
Okay. Want to supervisors' comments. I'm confused, Jerry. You mentioned you were totally exonerated by the Ethics Board or law enforcement?
Ethics Board.
They can't make that determination. They can make a recommendation to the board.
We never went anywhere. But now I am going to be put on trial with the investigation we had in the highway years ago, which is rock solid information. I was in the town, you always claim I'm marking up Wagner was exonerated, nobody ever looked into it.
Yeah, the Attorney General did.
Did you see the letter that came back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they,
Remember what the last line said? We did not look into it at this point in time.
yeah, well, they had to review the letter.
So if they didn't look into it, how could it be found guilty or innocent?
I don't recall the exact, I might have it here.
With anybody is, I guess there's no such thing as being innocent until proven guilty. And it's like I said, and I can't remember who it was, that basically insinuated, we all voted for the same reason that Brian did. I did not know what Brian's thoughts were until we got at this meeting, and I'm guessing maybe some of the other board members don't. But I think I'm old enough to make my own decisions. I have my own reason.
Not speaking in the microphone.
For not putting the woman on board. You know, and it's like I said, I feel I don't have to explain all my reasons to anybody. And this is the way I took it, and I might be dead wrong, that basically Brian Nowak was concerned, and there was no doubt the woman did fly the flag. No doubt about it. And it's like I said, she's got every right in the world, but you kind of lost some of it when you hang that flag up, whether it was her husband or not. And I really hate to say it, bit of an article I found. Anybody can pick it up online. Everybody see what it says? Confederate flag is pure racism, not Southern heritage. And I would have my personal doubts about anybody that displays that anything that they don't have a bit of a racist streak in them, and that's why I can't agree with that under any standards. And personally, I almost think that the charges against Brian are ridiculous. And I don't know, the way I always learned it back when I went to Chickawaga Central, that censure is a statement. It doesn't continue on. It doesn't say censures. But I do believe the last letter said this would continue until he apologizes or whatever. Plain ridiculous. I really hate to say it. It just smells of politics.
I guess we skipped over my comments. I just had a question for you, but I do have an update for the public regarding the asylum seekers lawsuit update, or again, it's not about that, as far as it's about our zoning code. And a quick update, As you may recall, on August 22nd, the town board passed a resolution to retain outside counsel that is versed in this situation. Then on August 25th, the lawsuit was filed in Supreme Court, and that same day, the judge had immediately issued a temporary restraining order in the town's favor, prohibiting further intensification of use of the 3 hotels. Our attorneys have appeared in court on several different days since then. However, we are still in litigation. Our next preliminary conference status update with the judge will be Thursday, October 5th, with a hearing date scheduled for October 31st and November 1st. Also, please know the temporary restraining order continues to remain in place. If you choose to pose any questions or comments to the board tonight regarding this issue, rest assured that we are listening. However, we cannot make any further comments about this situation due to the fact that we are in ongoing litigation. We just ask for your patience. We're fighting very hard for you. Council members, any other council member have any thing you want to tell the public before we move on to public comments? Nothing? Okay. Public comment period. This is an opportunity for residents to comment on matters involving Cheektowaga. The public comment period should last 15 minutes maximum. Each speaker may speak only once, and each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. Please speak directly to the board only. We ask that you please do not use profanity or derogatory words, and please stick to your time limit. Thank you. So our first speaker, this is the one, Sergeant, right?
Somebody's asking me a question.
Can I ask a question?
Well, you'd have to sign the sheet.
I did, but I want to ask a question about the timeline.
No, you'd have to sign the sheet if you don't like the way.
I did sign the sheet.
Okay, then we'll call on you, and you can talk about the time limit. Nick Bresniak?
I feel pretty honored because a lot of stuff going on was because of me. I'm the person that resigned from the ethics board for the simple fact it's anything but ethics. Day one, I questioned my first financial statement, and it was an employee that lived in Lancaster. I questioned him, and it was our town lawyer. Our town lawyer said he knows more than anybody else, that's why he's on that. My advisor was the town lawyer and Linda Hammer. And when they saw that I was actually going to do ethical stuff, they laughed like 2 little kids. And I knew it was going to go downhill from there for me. But I stuck with my guns, and I constantly fought until I couldn't fight anymore. You know what? The flag is a moral issue. The delivery, the way you did it, was totally wrong. And it puts people's, not just one person, their whole house in jeopardy. And you know what? You said to the best of your ability. That's what you did. Christine, I got nothing to say about you. Diane, I got nothing to say about you. As far as Kaminsky, I know you fly under the radar. I've seen a lot of different things about you. And you might have got away with a lot of stuff. You voted because that lady was unethical. Well, from what I see, especially with those mud flaps, you're unethical too. Mike, I got nothing to say about you. We actually looked forward to running side by side. I'm sorry that I can't do that, but I wish you luck. Now we got this last guy. I had an issue with the town attorney, and it went from in the courtroom to the next day outside. And I'm not going to get into it outside, but I did file a police report. It was not true that there wasn't enough evidence, because there was. But I chose not to press the charges. Brian Pilarski decided he was going to stick his nose in and perjure himself that he was in the parking lot that day, and I have witnesses. And you were not in the parking lot that day, and the stuff that you wrote was totally false. So if you want to talk about ethics, every time I brought up something, it was only guidelines to us and they had to go to the board. I had a hearing all set up to go after this town attorney that threatened me.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think, oh, Julie Park, 699, go ahead. Julie.
Oh, it's evil me. I wanted to give back to the town. I grew up here, lived here my entire life, except for a few years when I lived down in Louisiana. My husband and I helped the South rebuild after Katrina. We moved back here because it wasn't safe living down there. We wanted to come back to a safe community. So I actually moved back to Cheektowaga because this is where I raised my family. This is where I grew up. I am not a bigot. I am not a racist. I myself find the rebel flag abhorrent. And if it weren't for an act of rebellion my husband did in 2017, we wouldn't be talking about any of this. We have wasted, and I mean wasted, more of this council's time than should have been. If, Mr. Nowak, if you had bothered to call me, we could have discussed it. You didn't need to sandbag me in public. That's my only gripe, is you trashed me in public without even getting my side of the story. Even the news media asks me my side of the story. I have a right to defend myself. You didn't give me that right. You took that away from me. You took my peace and sense of home and community away from me. What right do you have to do that? Because it was your political grabbing, your political BS that started all this. I have never and ever been a racist. The people snickering behind my back all evening don't know me. I read in the Cheektowaga Bee their comments in the editor's section. They're not wrong. Rebel flag shit has no part in our life, which is why I was so pissed at my husband. You don't know the crap that went on in my house when that flag went up. You don't know what I went through and him and I went through to get that thing down. He was angry. He's not a racist either. But he was angry at something else at the time. And that's the only reason he did it. And as far as scrubbing my social media back there, it was not on my social media where he found those pictures. It was on Google. Okay? And it was something that was done so far back in my 2017, so it was before the law came in effect. But I don't care.
Thank you, Julie.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Stanley Clyburn?
Hello again. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak again about this racism and this Confederate flag. I'm gonna say this outright because I'm a realist. I'm looking at a bunch of white people.
You have to speak.
I'm looking at a bunch of white people talk about racism. Is that a good thing? Yes. But the people that I think that need to talk about it are the ones that are affected by it. And that's me and people like myself. Now, you're saying to me, Diane, that you guys are basically messing with the messenger. Yes, he may have done something, but yes, that flag was wrong. That flag is a flag of treason. It killed more American soldiers than the ones that were killed in Vietnam. That's the reason I don't like it. But let's get it right. Everybody said, well, the war was over slavery. Well, in 1860, 5 billion pounds of cotton was being sold. The northern wanted a share of that. They had made promises with the people in the southern states, and the southern states reneged on it. So what's the best way to stop the money for buying weapons? Free slaves, getting rid of your labor. So that's why it was, that's the reason for slavery. It has nothing to do with that flag. That flag is treason. That flag right there tried to take my country and turn it over. Okay? No, I don't respect it. And to me, you said something about civil rights. You're talking about healing, you're talking about racism. Let me explain some things that happened to me. 7 times I've been pulled over by the Cheektowaga police. 7 times. In 2012, matter of fact, July the 4th of 2012, the Cheektowaga police had 37 young black men below the age of 17 detained in the ice rink, saying they were gang members. One of them was my son. So when you experience that from a town, what do you think? They said prejudice. Let me give you a definition of it. Prejudice can be an effective feeling toward a person based on their perceived group membership. They also said that social media power is a part of prejudice. You get a chance, you can spread your word, you can talk about the Proud Boys, you can say, Proud Boys, stand down. Then there's the legal authority. You control the laws. You implement the laws that control everything. We don't. That's called racism. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stanley. Michael Baker.
Mike Baker, 64 Heather. Started with the little things. First, passing the blame for flooding on Harlem Road. Lack of accountability for poor blizzard planning. Then to not so little things, like making Cheektowaga taxpayers pay for frivolous lawsuits. Standing up for the Confederate flag. Here's this, really? And then potential tax fraud for star and veterans rebates. And now for fun slander against Councilman Nowak. I'm ashamed, completely ashamed, that I once supported Diane Benzikowski. But I am not too proud to admit I was wrong. This town needs someone who's accountable, and I would say to Councilman Nowak, I would sue her for libel. But she's probably going to end up making this town pay for that as well. So honestly, I count the days until we have a decent, stable supervisor. And with that, I say, peace out.
Okay, Dan Collender.
Well, I'm going to bring up my favorite subject again. The fact that I still don't know, after 3 meetings, roughly a month, on whether we are investigating our outside counsel that informed our assessor, Michael Milks, improperly, or if Michael Milks went rogue, we don't know. That's question number 1. Me and Mr. Nowak here, we were going to have a discussion after the meeting last time, but he was going down the stairs, looked right up at me, and just kept on walking. So that didn't happen. The other problem is I have now filed 3 SCAR grievances, SCAR hearings, and I have successfully won 2 of them, and I have a 3rd pending. Why do I have to go to a SCAR if our BAR members, Board of Assessment Review members, are so damn smart. If I think they're so damn smart, they need to resign, because I should not have to go and get 20-some thousand dollars a piece reductions through a SCAR when they wouldn't, the bar wouldn't even give me a single dollar. That's it, then nobody wants to comment on it.
Well, I don't know where this is going, because you talked to.
Yeah,
I don't know it.
it's going because he's supposed to be in charge of the assessment department, and there should be an investigation to find out if our politically connected outside counsel that we pay gave wrong information or not. Okay? Obviously, they advised, I won't say obviously, I'm told they advised Michael Milks, our assessor, to make this whole big cluster we had in June and July with all the SCAR hearing winners from 2022. So I'm waiting for an investigation on that because I was told it was being investigated, so where's the update?
Yeah, I haven't, he hasn't communicated with me at all, so
It's
I
for
don't
me.
know.
He hasn't communicated with me either.
As far as SCAR is gone, you know, this is the update I can give you right now. The school tax bills went out. The 24 SCAR recipients got 2 bills. The one at the lower amount was the bill that folks were instructed to pay in regards to the
I
instructions
understand that. That's not the question.
I understand that, yes. And in regards to the situation with the attorney, I've talked with the assessor a bit about that. I don't have a final answer for you today.
You didn't have it last meeting either,
I'm
or the
still
meeting
working
before?
on it.
Okay. And I want all our bar members to resign immediately. They're incompetent.
Thank you, Dan. There's no communication. I don't know, haven't heard a thing. Okay, Rick Grushniak?
Hi, I'm Rick Rishnak, reside at 11 Danforth. I've been a member of this community for 66 years. I've never seen anything like this before. I mean, elections are elections, but it's getting to be a little over the top here. It's just, the rhetoric is just brutal. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. This is America. We should be getting along, getting things done. Like the board, we're just wasting time on most of this stuff. We should be talking about our children, the parks, our seniors, taking care of things in town. And it's going to the wayside because we're just wasting time here. And it's sad. It's a sad way to see our kids have to put up with this stuff, you know? I mean, we all need to grow up here and just put things in perspective and get back to the roots and do things properly. You know, handle the stuff, handle the streets, handle the snowstorms, instead of just this bull going on. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
Tom Stahura? Tom Stahura? Mr. Stahura, are you here? No? Okay, he left, you think? Yeah. Okay. Lou Pachetta? Chetty, I'm sorry.
Lou Palachetti, 102 Dartwood Drive. Few things on my mind over there is, I was at the last traffic commissioners meeting, and I mentioned to the policeman that happened to be there about a camping trailer that's been parked at 161 La Harve, and it's been there for weeks. And I understood that the traffic law says that they have to move the thing within 24 hours. Every 24 hours, you can't leave the thing more than, you know, sitting idle there for that long. Nothing's been done on that.
61 La Harve?
161.
161 La Harve.
Yeah. So,
It's a camping trailer?
yeah, camping trailer, pop-up camping trailer.
Pop-up, okay.
Okay.
Anything else, Lou?
Yeah, the other thing, Councilmember Kaminsky was berated in regard to having his company's mud flaps on the town trucks. I worked for the gas company for 37 years. All our trucks the mud flaps that had any commercial thing on them were just turned around. Simple enough. You know, it's, as far as I'm concerned, resolve the issue, turn the damn things around. So, I guess that's what I got to say.
While you're here,
Pardon?
we did check into CVS for you.
Oh, you did? And?
Yes, I always follow through, and we found out it's not the Erie County Department of Health that oversees drugstores, it's the New York State Department of Health.
Okay.
And we contacted them, my office staff and I, and they got back to us that they were going to look into it. So
Okay.
I hope things improve. They're aware of it. They were going to do an inspection and talk to them.
Okay, appreciate it. I
You're
was in there
welcome.
the other day, it looked a little bit cleaner.
Oh, well, then maybe they did.
Something happened.
That was us.
Okay,
We
thank
found
you.
out it wasn't the Erie County, it was New York State.
Okay, thank you for your help.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Gary Borick.
Let's grab some facts. Our supervisor didn't commit tax fraud. Our supervisor got accused of tax fraud by somebody who didn't know what they were talking about, even though they're on the assessment committee and they're a veteran. The only reason they get sued is because of a slap suit. Prevents that. That's the reason you won't be suing anybody, Mr. Nowak. Except somebody's going to be suing you for Section 1983, and now that the town has determined that what he did was okay, you all put the town at subject too. So you're going to make somebody very rich sitting behind me because of your actions.
Sandy Prissville.
Go ahead, go for it, Wally, go for it. I just wanted to say the board came to the right decision on that resolution tonight, and that was no decision at all. And, yeah, let's get back to running a town and get off this political theater. Thank you.
Okay, Wally Carriero.
Well, you know, we don't need a tire store. We need a weed shop over there at the corner of Jessica and Transit. You know, and then maybe next to it, we can put a little Panera in there so that when they get stoned, they can go eat their Panera. And I want to just echo what Gary said. This was not about racism. This was not about the rebel flag. This was not about any of those things. This was about following procedures. And you know what, Jerry? When you ran for this position and you got this position, you made yourself open to us, the voter. You report to us, the voter, and every November we vote, and we vote with our hearts for the people we think are going to do best for us. Not best for themselves, the best for us, okay? So that's your position. I have the right to live as a private citizen because I don't hold political office. But, you know, what's really sad is Halloween is coming. So if I'm not careful with my decorations, he's going to call me out as a witch or a wizard, and you're going to burn me at the stake, because that's basically what you voted for tonight. You know that? Linda, did you research any of this? You're sitting there saying that he can pass judgment for what people legally display on their property. That's what you said. And that's why I agree with what Gary Borick said, that you guys have put yourself in a very awkward situation. And by the way, I believe in Santa Claus, but if he don't, he can expose me and ruin my reputation in this town because he doesn't believe in Santa Claus. Or maybe he does. It doesn't matter, does it? So shame on all of you, and get back to work.
Thank you. James Kaminsky.
Thank you. I'd like to make this quick, but since you've wasted my time, I feel we have to waste your time.
At the last board meeting, an accusation was made towards Councilman Kaminsky. Everybody knows he's my dad and my boss. That we're doing illegal business with the town of Cheektowaga. I'm here to clear some of these inaccurate and slanderous statements against our family business as a representative of Kaminsky and Sons. Give or take 8 years ago, we were accused of selling equipment to the town of Cheektowaga, and potential ethics violation investigation was brought forth, even though it was wrongly dispersed by the town supervisor at the time. After several months, the town of Cheektowaga Board of Ethics deemed this investigation had no basis for any wrongdoing. This, I'm assuming, is foilable. I'd like to explain to everyone here how our business works. Vehicle dealers come to us from across New York State and New England for equipment specified on the New York State mini bid system. We then provide any and all dealers with said specified equipment. We do this as a secondary, non-primary bidder, which means they ask for a price and we provide it, not necessarily knowing who the end user is, as we are not the bidder, just a supplier to complete the bid. With that being said, any markings or advertising you may see on this equipment that the town of Cheektowaga has with our name on it does not mean that we sold it to the town. It could come from any dealer all over New York State and New England, according to the New York State mini bid open bid system. All the rules are set forth by New York State. Unfortunately, we have a mud flap issue, which you should persecute us like somebody that painted Trump on a dump truck. I'd like to know on every board member's vehicle who you buy your vehicles from, so we can have some type of meeting that you can't use them. They're not allowed to bid to anybody. What I find more irresponsible about this as a town supervisor and Mr. Jasinski, did I really hear that this stuff with Brian Nowak was a year ago? It's 40-some days before the election it gets brought forth. Last board meeting, my father, my boss, our councilman, gets accused of doing illegal business with the town. I have copies for all of you that come from Madam Benchkowski's office, because you are the boss, the buck stops with you, right? From the town attorney, the town clerk's office, that shows we have not done any business with the town since the day that Jerry Kaminsky took office. You know, there's an old saying, right? That just because you keep, I guess, repeating a lie, it doesn't mean that it actually is a lie. It's still a lie. I'm embarrassed, like Rick Rushniak said, and I'm more embarrassed when Chris Adamczak made the comment of 12 years that this has not been a board.
I said 9, okay?
Wait a minute,
No.
is my time pausing?
Oh, that's right, okay, give him his time, okay.
May I start again?
No.
The funny part to this is we recite the Pledge of Allegiance before we come. There's a word in that, right? Indivisible. This is the most divisible or divided group of people I've ever seen in my life.
Can I say something? Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Kaminsky, I said in the 9 years that I have been on this board, my time isn't up.
Her
My time
time's
is
not
not
up.
up,
So
okay?
she's just talking
You
to
want to
you.
call me out, I'm going to answer you. I said the 9 years that I have been on this board, there has never been one team united.
Correct.
This board has been divided every step of the way.
Because it's a political machine. All this is about is the election.
It's not a back and forth. She's just speaking now. You
For
finish.
me,
She paused me so I get my extra 6 seconds,
for me,
right?
it's not political.
Because you
As
have
I
nothing
said-
to lose. You guys are lame ducks.
As I said before, it was the procedure. It was the way it was brought to the board, okay? 4 board members knew before the town board meeting that day. So, Mr. Kaminsky, I'm sorry to inform you, I said procedure. Get it right.
Yous don't follow procedure. Yous don't follow any procedure. You had an ethics board member saying there
Mr.
is no
Kaminsky,
ethics in this
you're
town.
out of order. I'm going to have you removed. You're out of order. Okay, so with that being
Diane,
said,
hold on.
yes, you may respond.
Mr. Kaminsky, I will concur what you said. This has been the most dysfunctional board since the inception of Cheektowaga. I've been on the board 21 months. Your father's been on the board 12 years.
There was a message there.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Councilmember Adam Zak, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.